This episode contains sensitive topics. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to Lusty Lounge. Today's hosts, I am Puce. With me today, we also have Minka.
Hi.
As well as Alt.
Hello.
And we even have a special guest today. Beetlebaum, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Beetlebaum.
That was a fantastic introduction to Beetlebaum.
I can give a background as well if you like.
Yeah, just a short little introduction to let our audience know who you are.
Sure. I am the owner and founder of many breast expansion and growth communities, including the subreddit, our breast expansion, as well as the official breast expansion Discord server. I manage a lot of other communities as well, but I've been a part of this fetish group for nearly 15 years. And I've only recently changed it into my full-time job.
Oh, wow,
I used to be a software engineer, so.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wait, what? Wait. Because
he is also an artist.
Because I am recently jobless. What does a software engineer make? Because I thought they made money.
We do pretty well. Yeah, I have a degree in computer science. And yeah, so I did programming and back-end and front-end software work for about half a decade. And then when COVID hit, I picked up 3D artwork as a hobby with the extra time that I had at home. And I started sharing it on DeviantArt, and it quickly picked up some traction. And for fun, I decided to open up a Patreon no more than 2 weeks after I started the hobby. And people really liked it. They were familiar with my name from 10 years past, also from the communities that I mentioned. And yeah, so they recognize my name as being a helper for these other 3D artists way back in the day on a website called BE Archive and Giantess City and stuff.
Oh man, that throws me back.
Process Productions. There's tons of these little forums all throughout the internet. But yeah, they saw some super old stories and they're like, "Are you the same Beetlebaum?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." Please don't pull that old stuff up. It's terrible. But yeah, it was nice to see that there were familiar faces out there. And yeah, before you knew it, I was like, I think it was I started in October of 2020. This hobby, and then by May 2021 I made the decision to quit my software engineering job and do this full time, and that's been my life ever since.
Nice.
It's awesome.
All right, so Beetle, I've been part of your community for quite a few years now, at the very least. And only had recently started messaging you. So I only knew you from breast expansion stuff. And then I started seeing your art and I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good.
Thank you.
So my first question really is, what got you into breast expansion?
That's an interesting question. I'm of the belief that breast expansion is partially hereditary or ingrained in people because of the process that women go through for pregnancy. Since when they're pregnant, they get their breasts tend to grow a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I don't know if there's an official term for it, but people that seem to refer to size as an attraction. My imagination simply took a concept of, when I first hit puberty, I was thinking, oh wow, this girl is really pretty. How would she look even prettier? And that concept I kind of ran with. And of course, growing up and hugging women and stuff like that, I just had a fixation for breasts, I guess. But a lot of people do. I think that there's a lot of symbolism in breasts as well. But if you were to ask me 5-10 years ago that I would be doing this now, I would have thought you were crazy. So, but it's amazing how things unfold.
So, are you more into like final size, like the bigger the better they end up, or are you more like myself, where about the growth phase?
Well, it really depends on the day, but I would say on average, I really enjoy the process. That's why I've been a story writer for over a decade now. That's how I actually got started. I wrote a lot of stories, and I only recently made that into 3D, and then even more recently, I've done a few Blender animations for the first time. To kind of expand on that, I do like the whole process of it, and what makes it even better is if there's a reason for it, or as the years have gone by, you can't just simply see boobs grow and then you're like, oh, that's hot. Now it's like, why are they growing, and is it intentional or not, or like what's the mechanism? And because I've got a lot of memories of amazing stories and ideas in my head, I think there's ways to make that breast expansion moment special. And yeah, it can be really fucking hot if they grow to these gigantic sizes, but that's on particularly horny days only, if you ask me.
Very, very true.
I was just going to say, so like just to kind of ward off any potential negative comments that might come. Like, I know you said like when you were young, like you were like, oh, that girl's pretty. What could make her prettier? And like, obviously you were a kid, like, so everybody's like hormones are running through and everything. But like, do you, and again, like I want you to know that like, there's no judgment here, because like what people are into is what they're into. But do you like have any attraction to women with small boobs, or are boobs such a big part that you're like, no, I'm only into women if they have big boobs?
There's other aspects of women that I find attractive, of course. And as cheesy as it sounds, personality is very important. And the first few women I dated in my life, they all had very small breasts. So, but if you're thinking in terms of like a primal attraction, something that really is just you have no control over, and it comes from your very core, I would put breasts in that category. Like if as a guy getting turned on, that if I see big breasts, then that's the reaction I get.
Okay, so you are able to like separate the like, this is the fantasy, the fetish, this is what like I'm horny for, versus like, oh, this is an actual person and like I'm attracted to them for different reasons.
I would say yes, but it is over the years getting increasingly difficult as I dive myself and my emotions into this artwork more and more. It's like I know what I want, and it's a little sad to know that reality is further and further away from it.
That's fair. I was like, I'm one of those people who's all here for like full augmentation future and stuff. So it's like, I really wish we could hit that point where it's like you could just make bodies be whatever you wanted to be.
Oh yeah, that would be a dream come true. A lot of people would be happy.
There'd be a lot of cat girls.
There would be a lot. Elon Musk would be happy.
Definitely helps when you have a partner who's at the very least willing to talk about and explore those sides of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Personally, I've experienced that.
I unfortunately have not had the pleasure to share that with an intimate partner before, but that's only because the opportunity hasn't really arisen. But if it had, I probably wouldn't hesitate. I'm of the firm belief that you shouldn't hold secrets.
Yeah, I hope it does happen for you. was like, everyone deserves happiness.
Thank you.
This isn't really a thing for me. Like, I get it. It's cool. It is not my go-to. It's like third or fourth rung down on the ladder because I do have like a limit on how big boobs can be before I'm just like, huh. All right then. So like, what is your limit? Like, where are you just like, nah, not this, not today.
It's honestly a difficult question because I can look at very large breasts. Am I allowed to name like actresses and stuff on
Sure.
here? I am. Okay.
I mean,
so
as long as they're public, I feel like it should be fine.
cool. But I don't know if you know who Leanne Crow is.
Yeah.
But so she has very large breasts, but I'm not attracted to them. And I would say the reason for that is the shape. It's just like a pure spherical shaped breasts, and they don't do anything for me. But if you kind of get that natural teardrop shape, there's a certain breasts can be fat too, and if they're heavy and dense and they don't have that give, they're not as attractive to me, so when it comes to just pure size, it really isn't something I take into consideration. It's mainly how large can I make them while still maintaining all these attributes that I like. And I would say the largest I've been able to do in my artwork while maintaining those traits are probably like down to their knees if they're standing upright, something like that.
So you're not a planet-sized boob crusher person.
No, I'm not, unfortunately. And the same applies to my giantess side of the fetish too. I'm pretty evenly split between my interests in GTS, which is giantess, and BE. But I do lean more towards BE. Yeah, but I don't do like the mega giantess stuff. I like anywhere from like 6 feet to maybe 12 feet maximum. So it's in the category of mini GTS.
Yeah, I'd fall in that category too. I definitely get what you're saying though, because like that is one of the nice things about like the 3D stuff is as the breasts get larger, they do keep that same look because you look at a lot of the people in the world who have giant boobs and like have had boob jobs and stuff, and like a lot of times when they hit a certain point, like you can see the skin gets kind of thinner, it gets kind of veiny, and like the shape just tends to not be super natural. So I definitely get what you're saying there.
Yeah, there are definitely unicorns in the world.
Yeah, you're right.
Where they these girls legitimately are blessed with genetics, and it's not like they have macromastia, which is the medical condition where your breasts grow larger than intended. But these girls legitimately have the DNA to have very large breasts, and then their skin doesn't stretch, and their areolas aren't stretched either. And I consider them unicorns because they're so incredibly rare, but they're out there.
Yeah.
Oh, mentioning giantess, that brings me into my next question. What other kinks and fetishes do you have outside of breast expansion?
Well, as I mentioned, I would say growth, which is kind of an ambiguous category, but it's essentially height growth. I'm into the topic of role reversal when it's encased in a story. Maybe like an innocent female protagonist and kind of a domineering male protagonist as well. And their roles kind of change over time. If you've ever seen any of my work, like Just a Little More, Jacob and the Raven's Kiss, all of this stuff it usually intertwines a role reversal in some kind. I do like a girl who, as she becomes more beautiful or busty or taller, that she gains confidence as well. So I think confidence is very sexy. For the past 2 years, maybe 3 years, I've been collaborating with a super awesome and popular writer by the name of Joyce Julep, and she writes mainly giantess stories, but she is not afraid to do a ton of breast expansion. And so I've been commissioning her to write a story that I've had in my mind for forever, but I haven't had the time to do it. We started the story back when I was still a software engineer and barely had time to eat dinner. But yeah, that's on her Patreon, and we've posted like the first 20 chapters. There's 25 chapters at the moment on the Giantess City forums, and that story has something that I like to call intellect expansion, where it's extremely rare. I've only ever seen it from writers like Mark New, Wakad, and Hunter S. Creek. I know I'm shooting out all these names that you guys may not know, but for the viewers, they may want to look up those names. And it's essentially where maybe there's like a reality changing machine, and these girls slowly become smarter as a means to it, and it just plays into the role reversal and the confidence and the kind of, I don't want to say domination, but it's close to that, the assertiveness of the character, and it all is awesome.
Always good to hear people got a variety of stuff to say.
Yeah.
Minka, were you about to say something? Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say like that's actually like kind of the opposite of like bimbofication, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I like a smart woman. IQ is hot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as far as I know, you were the founder of the official breast expansion Reddit and Discord. Is that true, or were there people before you?
Well, the BE subreddit was owned by a guy named Funkin Grooven for, I don't know, 3 to 4 years when Reddit first came out. He never spoke a single word. He was dead silent. I remember reaching out to him, and I managed to get his Discord account, and I would see him on World of Warcraft every day. But I was not playing. I'm a big World of Warcraft fan back in the heyday, but I would message him and never get a response. And then one day I found out that he had not logged into his Reddit account for 7 months. So I sent a message to the Reddit admins saying like, "Hey, there's this dying community," because it was shit. It was full of spam bots and had no content whatsoever, pirated content, had all the worst that you can imagine. It was a dead community. But I wanted the name, so I asked for it, and they gave it to me.
Wow.
Since the guy had not logged in. And at the time, no one had started an official breast expansion Discord server, so I created that. So simultaneously, I kind of brought those two up together. But I've also been running R Stacked, which is another subreddit. We've got over 1 million subscribers on there now. I was also the creator and owner of R Morphs, which was recently taken down as Reddit updated their terms of use to not allow morphs anymore.
Ooh,
there's a ton of other small subreddits, but they don't really, I don't manage them as much as I do these specific ones like breast expansion.
So, like, could you, like, explain what goes into that? Because I don't really... We have a Discord, and I just let everyone else handle that, because I'm like, I'm at work for 12 hours, so good luck, everyone. Have fun.
Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to. We spend morning, days, and nights endlessly managing that server. I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into managing a massive community for years and years and years for free. I mean, there was no profit, all volunteers, and we're trying to keep a happy community. A lot of drama, a lot of arguing between the staff, but in that time, I've also developed enemies, people that hate me to their very core. And I can't for the life of it figure out why their friend got banned or they got banned, and they feel it was unjustified, and so I'm now the devil kind of thing. But you got to be the most mature person that you can be, and kind of just turn the other cheek, and offer a resolution, which I've done many times and has been declined. But yeah, a lot of work goes into it. I now that I'm doing 3D artwork, I have less time than I did as a software engineer, because I would commute home, and that was my time, and also the weekends were my time where I could relax and do whatever I wanted to do, and that's how I picked up 3D. But now I'm my own boss, and I'm managing a Patreon and a Gumroad, and I'm self-advertising, and I'm managing all these communities, self-promoting as well. And so I don't have as much time to manage the communities directly. So as a result, I've expanded my moderation and admin team. We've tripled in size since then, and they're doing great. We've got a hierarchy where people report to other people at different levels, and I browse through the section as much as I can and try to keep people happy.
Okay.
Customer service.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's essentially just a glorified customer service for internet porn.
Man, that was a sentence.
So, Beetle, next question I had up, how long has the Reddit and Discord been around?
Oh, wow. I might be very wrong on these estimates, fair warning. But I want to say the subreddit has been up for about 10 years now, maybe just under that. And I know the Discord has been up for 7, maybe 7-ish. And when I say 10 for the subreddit, that's when Funkin' Groovin' still had it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Hold on. 7 years on Discord?
Yeah, about 6 or 7, I would say.
Oh, so y'all got in when Discord was first starting, because I got my notification that Discord turned 7. I was like, what?
Yeah, so it's probably like 6 years and 5 months or something.
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Because we were the staff, we've got a bunch of hidden channels where we log activity and stuff. Everyone's required to take screenshots, and everyone's accountable for their actions. So, but we were scrolling through some of the oldest posts, and I remember one of my moderators was saying, "Oh my God, this is from 6 years ago. I didn't know the server was this old." And the server got hacked like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if you guys know that, the Discord server. Someone took over one of our bots, and as a result started deleting all the channels and stuff. But we managed to keep all the hidden channels still alive, and so that's how we have a log of its creation. But yeah, I think at our peak we had like 35,000 members on the Discord server.
Oh my
I think
god.
now we have like we're up to like 11,000 again from 0. So, but I mean it's an active community. BE has become quite mainstream now. I'm super happy about that. We got a lot of people coming in asking questions, and there's a lot of real life BE content creators now that I'm friends with, and they're super nice. I couldn't be happier. Everything that I dreamed of 10 years ago is coming true. So
I wanted to say some shit, but I can't.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're good.
I was like, are you friends with Mads?
yeah, she and I talk.
I was gonna say, get me one of those shirts. I want one so bad, but I just gotta wait, be patient, see who gets one from the contest.
Yeah, there's a lot of awesome content creators out there. There's a few of them that are clearly out there for profit.
Yeah,
like they don't try to communicate and talk with us. But Mads is not one of those. She's always in the lounge chatting up, and she's awesome.
I was going to say, for somebody who like creates so much content and like variety. She is active everywhere.
Good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Bro.
She's probably the most social person with all the communities that I know of. So
All right, Puce, get to work. Just have her slide through.
I'm working on that one. That one, after her Twitter got deleted, that kind of went up in the air for a hot minute. But
Yeah.
I figured I'd give her a moment now that her Twitter's back to figure everything out again.
I don't know if she wants to publicize it, but there's a lot of drama in the background that everyone has to deal with. It's not exclusive to her or me. But there's a lot of bad apples too. They try to steal stuff, and so she might have some interesting stories to share on the Lusty Lounge.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I had actually messaged her a couple weeks ago, just before her Twitter got deleted, and she was open to it, and then her Twitter got deleted, and she had to reel back and kind of fix all that before wanting to do an interview.
Are you guys familiar with SizeCon?
No.
A little bit.
It's a physical meeting place where people that like size-related fetishes, they kind of congregate there, and they all sweat and nerd over things. but because of COVID, their most recent SizeCon was virtual. And I was a panelist on there along with a bunch of friends. And Mads was in the audience helping keep the questions rolling. It was really cool.
It's awesome.
Always awesome to see the community working together.
Where is SizeCon?
I think it's on the East Coast, but I could be wrong. I remember looking it up once and realizing that I would have to take a plane to get there. I'm on the West Coast, so.
Yeah, for some reason I want to say Carolina or Florida.
All right, Puce, you and me are going to fly out one day. Maybe you can come too, but that's a much longer flight for you.
Not if it's in California.
Fair. We'll fact check it at some point.
Beetle, speaking on like the community and stuff, is there any like interesting stories you've had over the years of having to host all this that you'd like to share?
Regarding the communities,
whether it be drama or just
I don't know
weird commissions you've had to do or stuff like that.
It probably wouldn't be polite of me to raise a lot of the drama up that has happened. Probably the healthiest thing a community can do is look past drama. So we've had a lot of it, but I probably won't publicize it. But interesting stuff I could definitely talk about. So I do accept commissions. I tell everyone that my commission slots are full because they pretty much are. I do 3 active comics per long animation that I make. I usually make a story that's about 300 panels long with enough text to fill up, like half a book, I feel like. And so I'm constantly working, but every once in a while someone will reach out to me and say, "Hey Beetle, I've got this really great idea and I've been looking for someone to do it, and I just saw this panel and it looks like just what I imagined. Can you do this and this and that?" And I've gotten some pretty ridiculous suggestions. I mean, people are into some of the most wild stuff. So I won't plug any names, but I've been asked to do like 5 Dick Fudanari characters, or like farting fat growth. My artist friends that I hang out with every single day in voice chat for Discord. We always laugh about this thing called shit nipples, and there's somebody that created a gallery of the rarest, what I consider the rarest fetish, which is instead of lactating, they're shitting out of their nipples. And and so whenever we're talking about funny commissions or whatever, we all say, "Is it a shit nipple? Is it a shit nipple request?" I personally haven't had it, but I've gotten pretty close to it. People wanting like some pretty crazy graphic amputee stuff or a lot of gore. I decline all of those. I don't actually do those. But a lot of my commissions tend to push the boundaries of what I make further, and I end up becoming a better individual and artist as a result, because I wouldn't do it normally for myself, you know. I'm working on a couple active commissions right now that are actually long-term stories, and they're going to be pushing the characters to like 100 feet tall, taller than buildings, and breasts that fill up an entire room. So I have to do a lot of sculpting and lighting that I normally would not have to do. And it's interesting stuff.
So, when it comes to these like 3D models and stuff, like are there assets that you can grab to kind of start from, or do you have to, like, I really don't know anything about the 3D modeling stuff, so like, or do you have to create them from scratch?
Both. So
Okay.
I always recommend to people who are starting up on 3D, if you can find the asset already made, use it, as long as you have permission to do it, because that'll save you time, especially if you're making it a business. In my case, if I can't find exactly what I want, I'll go into Blender and I'll build it and texture it and everything. And it's important to be able to do that for unique items. Like in a story, for example, if your main antagonist, evil person, has a pendant or something, and you want it to be in the shape of a black widow, right, with a ruby on it, you're not going to be able to find that out in the open world necessarily. And so having the skills to model and texture it and rig it is important. But for the sake of time, if you're trying to push out comic panels, 6 panels a day, and the characters are going to have a background filled with accessories and props and whatnot, you're simply not going to have the time to do it all by yourself. So
That makes sense. Do you do any sort of commissions or anything with like copyrighted characters, like the Overwatch characters, Lara Croft, Resident Evil?
I've dipped my toes into that for the very first time with my Blender animations. I'm not sure if you guys have seen them, but I have them up on my Twitter page, completely free, if anyone wants to see them. Honestly, I think I'm most well known for them now. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. We got a voice actress. I collaborated with someone named Expandinator, who has since become a wonderful friend I talk to nearly every single day. He did the audio for me for the second half of this video sequence. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I didn't mention it, but it's Mercy from Overwatch.
Okay.
Yeah, so she the premise is that she finds this lotion that helps her become a better healer, because she's a healer in the game, right? And so in part 1 of the video, she's rubbing it over her breasts in a super tight bikini, and I just have her breasts sloshing around and slippery and everything as her fingers kind of glide all over her. And then they like pulse larger and larger, and then in part 2, her top actually snaps off, and then they just keep growing and growing. It's my first step into animation, and right now my ratio is about 75% comics and 25% animations, and I want to be moving that more towards 50-50, but it's very tough because my supporters, who are awesome, by the way, I could not ask for better supporters. They are the most passionate, kind people that I've ever met. They know me for my comics, and they follow me for my comics. I recently did a poll to figure out what people would want me to be focusing on, animations or comics. And the divide could not be bigger between my Twitter audience and my Patreon audience. People on Twitter, nearly 70% of them wanted me to focus exclusively on animations. But on Twitter, it was the opposite. So it really speaks volumes as to what platform, people are consuming content on. So I think the healthy choice is somewhere in between.
Like, do you ever, as you're making these things, I assume it's kind of like a behind the scenes movie making. Like, obviously, a lot of times, like, there's green screens, and so people aren't like, oh, yeah, I'm in Middle Earth. But, like, when you're making these things, do you ever have issues with getting too turned on from what you're doing? And, like, oh, shit, I need a break?
It has happened, but very, very rarely. When I get that twinge when I'm like running through the camera movements and I get to catch a glimpse of what I'm making for the first time, and it just clicks. Very rarely, maybe like I said, maybe only twice so far in my career has it been like, oh, this is going to be amazing. But yeah, this animation was one of them. I was like, holy shit. Because I use a very special technology for the soft body physics. I don't believe it's used by any other creator other than the person I learned it from, which is Agmero, where the breasts are about as realistic physics-wise as you can get. It's an amazing technology that is used in Maya, and we've translated over to Blender. And yeah, so I plan on using and abusing this technology as much as I can for our fetish.
You mean you don't use the dead or alive boob technology?
The up and down springy,
Yeah.
the anime boob bounce.
Quick tangent. Do you think that could be applied to Cinema 4D and then re-inputted into Premiere?
That's a good question. I've never used Cinema 4D, but I'm aware of a few artists that have physics in Cinema 4D. I don't know if it's built into it. But if it can accept alembic files, then yes. Yeah, it's theoretically you can get it to work. Because
you could then just move all your video editing into Premiere. Premiere's not super hard, just stupid and time consuming and resource intensive.
Yeah, a part of me is thinking I might need to switch over to Maya permanently for a lot of my rendering. But the first step would be moving my comics, which are being rendered in a software called Daz Studio, over to Blender, where I have a lot more power, and I can get way more realistic renders out of it.
So on the topic of comics, because it's over the past couple of years I've started to get into the 3D stuff for my interests and everything, because they're finally like, getting to a point where it's like, oh yeah, no, they're not like clipping through each other and super static movement, but like I've seen videos online where somebody will take a comic and basically have like clipped them all together to make it a video so you can watch it and read it. Is that something that you do, or is that someone basically taking your work and uploading it, or like taking someone else's work and uploading it? Is that something that should be avoided? Do you know?
A lot of those websites steal content, but I do make animated GIFs. This was before I made actual animations. I would take the comic slides, and because I would pose them in such a way, I could kind of tween between the pictures, and it would look like movement. And it's created some really cool effects. So I did that for about a year, and I still do that as a part of my story building. But yeah, I would say if you're seeing it on like any video website, chances are that's someone posting it illegally.
Okay.
Go to the source, people. Remember that, audience. Find the Twitter, support your favorite artist, all that stuff.
A lot of people don't realize that this is the lifeblood of the creators. By supporting the people that are making this content, you're able to have more of it be generated. I can't tell you how many amazingly talented artists fail to maintain their upkeep because there's too many people pirating their work. I think the person that is the most affected by it was an individual named Third Art, 3RD-ART. And he created amazing BE content in Maya like 10 years ago or something. Like, he was the pioneer of pioneers.
I was going to say, you're bringing up names from back in the day. Ooh.
Yeah. And this poor guy barely made $10 a month because everyone pirated his stuff. But he's a genius. So it's very painful, because if people had a platform like Patreon or because he had his own website at the time, maybe we'd be in a different place for him right now. And I have personal friends who had to quit and say, hey, I got to go find a job. I can't keep doing this. It's not keeping a roof over my head. And I know that I spend probably 2 days, like 2 full days worth of hours per month combating piracy. And even then, there's a lot of websites that are overseas that don't reach, like by law, I can't get them to shut them down. And they literally just spawn people to be very illegitimate.
That's what I was going to ask next is, like, do you have the power to be able to go after these, like, you know, like X videos, XNXX, R heavy, stuff like that? But I guess that makes sense. Yeah, if they're overseas and have different laws, then they're just like, nope, we don't have those copyright laws here.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of them are being hosted by larger websites that are also shady. And I've reached out to not the website themselves, which I have done too, but the hosts of those websites, and they too will ignore messages and stuff because they don't want to lose their customers. And it's a terrible thing. But to answer your question, I have been able to get a lot of things taken down. It's amazing what threatening a lawsuit can do. But you have to be legitimate about it and have formal letters and, you know, stay on top of it and, you know, threaten legal action and get things moving. And also a lot of the search engines are a lot easier to comply with. So if you go on Bing or Google, you can have the search terms dropped out as well. So, but even visiting these websites, even if you don't do it very often, promotes their activities because they make most of their money through advertisement. So even if a banner just loads on the side, you're kind of helping them. So avoiding it altogether is the healthiest thing to do for our community. We're still small by comparison.
Well, that is excellent to know, and I will make sure I'm being more careful about that myself. Because I think there are, like you said, I think there are a lot of people who don't realize that, like you, this has become your job, you know, and like if all of that gets stolen and just uploaded, like you are no longer able to make that money off of it, which means you are no longer able to put the same amount of time into it, and then it just kind of stops being a thing.
Right. I go from spending 12 to 15 hours a day working on this awesome content to spending maybe 3 hours on weekends. And that's if I still care about doing it just for me, you know?
Right.
And it's a shame because I know I don't want to give names because they probably don't want it to be publicized. But I have friends that I talk to, artists, on a daily basis. We have a large voice channel hangout on my Patreon server, as well as the official Amazon server, where artists kind of congregate. And they have some very sad, but also uplifting stories about this kind of stuff.
And we all want to be able to support you guys and keep you going because, like, you know, we get off to it. So
yeah, and the awesome thing is, I would say 50% or more of the content that we generate ends up being free intentionally. For example, if you go to my DeviantArt page, you'll see that I have full stories, thousands of panels. I think I have literally 1,000 deviations on my DeviantArt right now that are completely free. And you can go through and see a bunch of stuff. But I'm not the only one. We've got hundreds and hundreds of amazing artists who are just pumping out incredible content to enjoy. And it's only the 1%. It literally is. It comes out to about 1% of people who say, "Hey, I like your stuff enough that I'm gonna, join your Patreon for a little bit more." So it's the 99% of you that helps spread the word and enjoy the content and do it legally that really helps us.
So Beetlebomb, if I may ask about your profile picture here on Discord, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So am I correct in assuming that's Jill Valentine?
That is incorrect. This is a character of mine named Skylar. She was first featured in a story called A Bittersweet Blessing, Chapter 4. But she's a reference to a real life person that I dare not mention that I found absolutely gorgeous on TikTok. People fell in love with her. She's by far the most requested commissioned character by like a magnitude of 10. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just that little picture, like she is fucking gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to that because I have commissioned a acquaintance, can't quite call him a friend, of his own character, and I didn't really. I was just like, character's cool. I want to see him in this outfit, but they were like super enthusiastic about it. Are all artists like that, or like when someone says, "I want you to make your own character," but with this, how does that translate? Not translate. How does that make you feel?
Are artists passionate about their work? Is that your question?
How do you feel when someone, instead of like a copyrighted character or their own character, they're like, "I want you to draw your own character"? Like I will give you money to draw the thing you already like to draw.
Yeah, I mean, I get both kinds of commissions. I get, hey, your character in this story is awesome, but I want to see her in a specific, scenario. And I also get, hey, I have a OC, original character, that I absolutely need to have in 3D. And my commission prices reflect that. So if I have to build them from scratch, I'm usually throwing 1,000 questions at the commissioner to make sure that I get it right, because I don't want to spend all the time decorating them and making a unique expression, cheekbones, hips, everything, right? Sculpting the shape of the heel, all these little details, and then find out that they're like, "Oh, this is wrong. She's supposed to be Hispanic and not curvy," or whatever, right? So I have fun when the creative process is not deviated too far from my personal tastes. But I also tend to not accept commissions that are very far from my own interests. So it always works out.
Got you. Okay.
Like the shit nipples.
Exactly.
God, don't,
I'll run to the hills if someone's like, "Hey, Beetle."
Now the question is, could you be paid enough to do it?
No.
Good answer. Good answer.
Boundaries are important.
Yeah.
Follow-up question, because this is going to tie into a future side episode.
Sure.
Has someone asked for a commission for a VTuber model?
Yes.
Damn. Wow. Okay. We've gotten to that point. All right.
Yeah, actually, that does bring up a good question. Like, because most VTubers are very anime style, like, are there VTubers out there that are this more realistic 3D model?
Not that I know of. I declined that commission for that very reason. I don't really do anime style, even though I would love to be able to. I've kind of realized that my artistic perspective is more towards realism.
Would you be able to create like a full rig for a VTuber that was one of these more realistic things?
Oh yes, definitely.
I wonder how that would go, because like obviously there is that separation of like anime girls, are like no human actually looks like an anime girl. So I wonder if people would be like, oh,
There
well, why
is,
are you
Project
doing
Melody.
this?
no, not Project Melody. Now I'm forgetting her name.
Oh,
Crap. I know her name, but I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
She does interviews, and she's got like her own
Oh.
world she's built into.
She's still fairly
She
animated
just came out with a
looking.
new model.
Oh,
I forget her
okay.
name.
I know her. She became like super popular on Twitch for a minute there.
Yeah, she's still around and does a lot of stuff, but obviously,
But I do wonder what the reception would be to something like that, because people would be like, well, you're just basically being another human or whatever, instead of the like disconnect to the anime creature or human or monster or whatever. Because like I think like even again just looking at your profile picture, what did you say your name was? I'm sorry.
My girl is Skylar.
Skylar. So yeah, like let's say you were like, I doubt you would give Skylar away to anybody, but if all of a sudden someone was just doing VTube stuff as Skylar, it's like, would people react well to that? I would imagine so, because I mean she's hot, so I imagine people would be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this hot Skylar animated girl play games,
Yeah,
but I
it's
don't.
definitely a possibility for sure.
that's gonna be fun in like 5 years when we get there.
I think right now, I never want to stop developing my skill assets,
Mhm.
and being in this kind of field for a little over a year now. I think it's like a year and 5 months. I feel like there's so much I still need to learn. And I want to consume it all as fast as I can. But the direction I want to take things, I kind of had a fork in the road where I had a moment to decide where I wanted to go. And a lot of people were saying, well, why don't you do games? Some kind of like a visual novel game, or even like a Unreal Engine or Unity game that has to do with our fetish. And there was a time in my young adult life where that was my largest passion, where I was like, that's where I wanted to go, and I was confident about it and everything, but not so much nowadays. So I'm now leaning more towards, okay, how realistic can I really push the boundaries of this fetish for animation? Can I get like a cinema quality, movie quality animation generated for our small community? Can I be that person that provides that for the first time? And so that would be a dream come true if I could obtain that.
That's awesome.
I want to say yes if you're already kind of thinking about what you can do in Cinema 4D, because fuck that program. And along with Maya, because I know Maya is used on a lot of post productions, and people just don't want to acknowledge it because 3D AutoCAD. But yeah, I think you could do it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen people using the software that I have obtain what I want, for sure. There's some insanely talented people. But yeah, the list of software that I use now for this job is pretty substantial.
I hate to bring it back to who I was talking about, but I found them. Code Miko.
Okay.
She has pink hair.
Oh, okay. I
That
know
girl.
who you're talking about.
So when you made that jump from comics to animation, like how substantial of a change was that? And like with the system that you work with, Blender, like what are the tools there? Is it easy to make those animations and like facial changes? Do they have tools to where you can just kind of click and drag, or do you have to literally like model every expression and everything?
So the transition from comics to animations was the hardest thing I had done yet. I had to relearn pretty much everything, and the reason for that is because the quality of animations in the existing software that I used for comics, which was DAZ Studio, to me was inadequate. It was not good enough for modern day animation quality that I was aiming for. And so I had to relearn everything in a new software. And even then, it wasn't just Blender, which I moved to. It was Blender and Maya on top of, Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Premiere Pro, tons of remeshing programs. I mean, the list goes on. So I had to kind of drop what I knew and start fresh again, even though I had just started the in this industry. So that was very tough. And to answer your question regarding expressions and whatnot, if you have a pre-made character by another artist, chances are that it's already rigged. And what I mean by rigged is it's posable. You can grab a hand and move it and bend the fingers, and everything works somewhat. Some artists aren't as precise as others, so maybe there's some issues that you have to manually fix if you're picky, like me. But if you build it from scratch, you also have to rig it from scratch, and that means setting up all the bones and how much the cheek moves when the mouth opens, how does the jaw bend, and how do the lips wrap around the teeth, and where do the wrinkles form when they smile, and all of it. It's so much work. People don't realize the countless hours that goes into it. And that's why, to wrap back around to your initial question, if you can get an asset already made, you are saving yourself thousands and thousands of hours. So while there is a kind of a badge of honor, a medal of honor to build it yourself, it isn't always the wisest choice.
I am honestly in awe. Like, just people who can just draw regular art already are like demigods to me, and like this is another level. I bow down to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, I am probably the worst 2D artist you'll ever see. I can't draw, let alone write my name clearly. So
same.
I would say I'm a very logical person. For most of my lifetime, I was all about math and probability and programming, right? Mm-hmm. And so going into the realm of artwork was totally different for me. But yeah, it was refreshing. I have family members who are professional artists, so I got a lot closer with them as a result of this. And I learned a lot. And I also learned that the logical types, those kind of people, and also the creative types were not so different. Humanity likes to put people in boxes, and we really are not that different.
I would agree. I also am a very logical type, like did super well at math and everything. And like where my job is now, I work, like we create jewelry for different licenses and stuff. And so like there's this other half of the shop that they're the creatives. They're the ones that can like take that little piece of wax and like turn it into something. And it's just like we work together so well. And I think you're absolutely right that like we have more in common than the world wants us to believe.
Yeah, and I feel like I still can't really do 2D art like on a piece of paper. I can't draw, but I understand 3 dimensions very well from my logical side, and so I was able to understand lighting in a 3-dimensional space or simulated 3D space very easily. And sculpting came to me rather quickly. Being an individual that was absolutely obsessed with breasts and, my fetish for 15 years. I've been staring at millions of photos and 3D artwork of boobs. And so when I finally got the chance to sculpt them myself, it kind of came naturally because I had been staring at them and obsessing over them for so long, you know?
Mhm.
So, but if you ask me to do something like that on a piece of paper, it would look absolutely comical.
So one question, just because because I only was diagnosed with ADHD like 2 years ago, and so I've started to learn a lot about like neurodivergent traits and minds and stuff. And you don't have to answer this, but like one of the things I found out is that a lot of people who have like dyslexia, basically their brains think in like a 3D plane. So I was just going to ask if you know if you have dyslexia, if that's kind of how your brain works.
I haven't been diagnosed with anything like that,
Mhm.
but there have been times where I think I might be having some undiagnosed thing. Uh, I have an interesting story. I've always been really good with numbers, but not in the sense of like comprehension of formulas and whatnot, but just memorizing numbers. I could look at a credit card number for just 2 seconds and memorize it, kind of thing. So that has always made me question, like, why can I not understand why a math formula works, but I can memorize the math formula and apply it like a copy and paste? But I think that comes down to the human race attributing certain qualities of intellect being better than others. My memorization is very strong, but my comprehension what has not always been very strong with math. And so I was able to get through college and get my master's degree from just pure memorization. I wouldn't be able to tell you why I understand something, though with 10 years of doing programming, I can get to that point, but it never starts that way. And so, I think there's a chance, maybe I'm diagnosed with something, but.
Well, and again, like that could come down to like putting people in boxes, and it's just like brains are just weird, like they're all going to work different. So, but that is kind of fascinating that like your brain is just like, okay, this is how you do it, but why you do it, fuck off, who knows?
Yeah, we had a Pi Day thing for a college campus many years ago, and it was 3.14, so March 14th, but it was also 1/5/2015.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Super Pi Day because we were never going to have 3.1415 again. It's like the perfect Pi Day. And so the college was advertising free pizza and all you can eat, and everyone's going to have a good time. And we're going to have a contest where, everyone will be able to participate if they want to recite as many digits of pi as possible. And if you place in the top 3, we'll give you like a free mouse pad and like a coffee mug or whatever, right? And I remember my group of friends, we're all these nerdy gamers at the time, and it's like, hey, you want to go get some free pizza? And I remember like, oh yeah, hell yeah, let's go get some pizza. And on the 5-minute drive to the campus, I just looked up on my phone, digits of pi, and I managed to memorize, I think, 37 digits of pi on the drive there, and I ended up getting first place, which was very fascinating because I wouldn't be able to tell you all the digits right now, but my short-term memory has always been pretty good with numbers, and I think that translates over to my artwork in a lot of ways because I take my programming and create scripts and bat files, and I automate a lot of my work to be more efficient. And so, yeah, but I mean, like I said, my weaknesses span as far as the eyes can see as well. But brains are complicated. I still have the mouse pad, which has 100 digits of pi written on it. that I got from the prize, and they gave me a coffee mug that says "Inspire" on it, and the pi is the symbol for inspire.
Oh, it's cute. It's cute.
So to pull this back to like BE and all that stuff, you mentioned towards the beginning of the podcast that you have got a writer that you're commissioning to help come up with a story you've always had, as well as it sounds like you've got voice actors you at least know offhand. Are there any like models or commission people you want to commission that like you just always dreamt of working with?
No, not particularly. But yeah, the voice actress that I used came from a sound pack on her Gumroad, so I wasn't directly working with her. Though, if things keep going the way that they are, I would like to work personally with a few very famous voice actresses out there. And then, yeah, I mean, there's no for my work, I don't really need an actual actress. I just have my 3D characters do the stuff.
So do you said like you're obviously an artist, so you do the model. Do you work with the models and create your own models and all that stuff? Do you ever hire out for like the writing of your comics, or do you come up with all that on your own as well?
That's a really good question. I write all of it myself, and it's got me cross-eyed that I have to brainstorm for 3 stories at a time sometimes. So, but the reason I was so flamboyant about complimenting my patrons, my supporters, is because many of them will send me a DM, a direct message, and throw ideas out, and we'll collaborate and talk about like, oh, what if this happened? How cool would that be? And I only recently made it a public channel on my Patreon Discord where anyone can share their thoughts and be like, oh, this would be so cool. And I've got sticky notes covering my desk right now, all of my monitors, and even on my Windows sticky notes software where I've just got these ideas. I jot it down on my phone whenever I'm walking, and sometimes a bright idea comes to you at the least convenient moment, and so you gotta do something. I've got voice recordings too when I'm driving.
Puce, the word you were looking for is outsource.
That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like driving, shower, and like right as you're getting ready to fall asleep are like when the best ideas come.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would say right before I fall asleep is when I get most of my ideas. And yeah, I'm actually concluding 2 stories this month, and I've been working on what stories will be replacing them. And it has been a lot of fun because for every story that I make, since I'm still so new to this, I learn my lesson. For example, my most recent story, Jacob and the Raven's Kiss, there's a scene, spoilers, where the female protagonist gets very sick, and it's a very deep and compelling story that references Romeo and Juliet, and there's a lot of I try to mix it in between the sexiness so that all the growth sequences and the BE matters, and it's very hard to do that because you'll have audiences that they're like, quit telling me about like what they're wearing or like what they're talking about. I just want to see them fuck. Like I have those kind of fans, but I also have people that will reach out to me and tell me like, what was she thinking in this moment, and what's compelling him to do such and such. And so as an artist, you have to kind of think about how can you balance that out and keep both people happy? But yeah, so I have this female protagonist who falls ill, and I have a couple scenes where she's actually going through chemotherapy, and I've learned that appeals to no audience. It doesn't appeal to the people that love the story, and it doesn't appeal to the people that want the sexiness, seeing this bald girl suffering. And so I've learned my lesson on there. I think the result is that the most extreme fans that love the lore behind the story and follow every little toenail detail ended up feeling more intimate with my characters because they saw her go through a very hard moment. But ultimately, it wasn't worth including in the story. And so the moral of the story is every single time I have the opportunity to start a new story from scratch, I can build on the lessons that I've learned before and make it better, hopefully.
Yeah. Are you planning on killing anybody's favorite characters like lots of writers do?
I have killed characters before. They've been off screen, and it was my first 3D story ever. I won't spoil who dies. But yeah, it was pretty sad. I noticed that I tend to have a lot of magic involved in my stories. But that won't always be the case. Before I did 3D, I wrote a lot of sci-fi stuff too. And I don't want to keep myself bound to that. I've got a lot of 3D assets that are sci-fi-esque that I haven't had the wonderful opportunity of using. So
I do think that's really cool, where it's just like, like a lot of, I feel like, and you may know better than I, because I have not been involved in a lot of the like larger sex communities or porn communities or anything, but like I feel like for a long time, because of how taboo it was like, oh, porn is just porn. And like as society's kind of getting this point of like, no, it's okay to be sexual. Like, I think that's really cool that it's like, let's have this story with it so we can still get really excited and turned on, but like also have this story that we can care about these characters and like grow with and stuff. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you just have a girl getting bustier on the screen, that can be hot. But if you've seen it 100 times, maybe you want something a little extra. Is she surprised? Is she happy? Is she angry? Is she shocked? Why is she shocked? Is there some kind of, remote controlling it, or is it a pill, or is it, supernatural? And then you can take it even further and add conditions, like, did she do something wrong? Is this a punishment? Is this a blessing? Is this, and then you go further back and then you start building on top of it. And suddenly now you have a character that you understand the entire background for. And then the moment is just that much sweeter.
And I think a lot of it too might come from, this is complete speculation, but like from one of the things that I've learned from kind of my doctors and stuff is that like, for a lot of women, and it's not only women, but like for a lot of women, when it comes to getting turned on, like it's much more mental than it is physical, where for a lot of people who have penises, it's like, oh no, I can just stroke myself and get off. And so like, I know for me, if I'm just watching something and it's just like nothing's really happening and there's no story there, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is hot, but it's not what's going to get me off. I need to have that story with it for my mind to be able to like really grasp on and be like, oh shit, yeah, no, this is hot.
Yeah, definitely. And I concur with those ideas. I do think a lot of it is a physical turn on for guys. But it's almost like you want to sweeten or age the wine, You've consumed wine for so long, and so you're searching for something better that you already love, cheese enthusiasts or whatnot,
So kind of going back to something you brought up earlier where you were talking about, like, for you, a lot of it is like what caused the breast expansion, or like what is, it's not just happening, but like something happened. do you have a favorite like thing like injection or lotion, or like do you have a favorite reason for breast expansion?
Pills or magic or sci-fi.
I would tell you no, but my stories say otherwise because I have a couple consistent themes. But yeah, so I would say I like it if like the partner of the female protagonist is like turned on, and because they're turned on, the girl grows and gets sexier, bigger boobs and stuff. It's like the fact that they're turned on makes them more. That seems to be a continuing theme in a few of my stories.
I'm sorry, I've kind of dominated Puce.
No, that was fine. I was hoping I wouldn't be the only one talking and asking questions. Now we just need Alt to ask a bunch of questions.
I was going to, but y'all kept going. So that, and he answered 2 of my questions without me needing to ask. And I was like, well, all right then. I'll just be quiet.
Sorry if I've been a chatterbox.
Oh no, this is the whole point of the podcast.
So did you have any other questions, Alt?
So what video games do you play?
Do you have time for video games?
That is another question.
Yeah, I right now I'm fairly addicted to Lost Ark, which is a new game that came out for PC.
Oh, are you the one player?
What's the call it plays? What's his name? Asmith Gold played that one time, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It's a super fun game. If I'm not careful, I can lose too much time to it. But yeah, I've learned that pulling 15-hour sessions for an entire year is not healthy.
No, not at all.
So being able to take a breather and spend, your last 2 hours of the day or so relaxing with a game, particularly a social game with friends, is really healthy. And so, Lost Ark is kind of my thing. But I've been a PC gamer for many years. The last console I owned was a GameCube. I know I'm pretty old.
Oh God,
We're all old.
I did get
hey, shut your goddamn mouth.
I did get a Switch, but I didn't use it too much. But yeah, I grew up with like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, and Sonic and Mega Man and all that stuff. And then when I went to PC, I lost my life because World of Warcraft came out, and I played a ton of StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo, pretty much the golden age of Blizzard Entertainment. Yeah, and then I got into a lot of action RPGs. I
love Kingdom Hearts.
My first job was as a professional gamer for World of Warcraft.
Oh, really?
In fact, yeah. I did it for exactly 1 year. And then they found out that I was underage and I was not supposed to be working.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I was like 16 or 17 at the time.
I'm not gonna go there. I got questions about that, but I'm not gonna go there. Remember what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
What is a good reference for you? Because I know you said you looked at a lot of titties, but like what?
My brain.
How do you come across all of these things? Like, where do you go to look for inspiration and references?
A lot of it is just my brain, but I love looking at the booba. So I've got a bunch of communities I manage. I look there. I go to a couple websites, and I save thousands and thousands of images that I find super hot. And so I've got an archive of things that are on there. But a lot of it just comes from memory, or what I know is what would turn me on, and as a result, turn other people on. So I actually just posted my most recent set here. Some of it's up for free, but it's on Patreon. It's in the group chat.
Yeah.
Those are some good art. Nipples.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun sculpting that's involved there. I think people, don't realize that there's a lot of 3D artists who get into the hobby, and then they will just like find a slider that says like breast size, and then they just move it to the right, and it's like, oh look, the boobs are big. And like you can do that, of course, but then they look, I don't know, blocky, and there's a lot of issues. And I would say one of the most beneficial discoveries for me was ZBrush, where you can actually go in there and shape them to look real and have proper drooping and whatnot. That really adds to it.
Like even the skin texture on like the last one where they're huge, like it looks real. Like it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I thought those were real for a hot second.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and actually, well, if you had other questions, I don't want to cut you off because you haven't talked too much.
Well, I mean, I'm in producer mode when we have guests, so I'm just making sure everything flows and audio is good. Oh no, not a cute girl with a big witch hat. Oh no, my one weakness.
Yeah, like that legit looks real.
As a degenerate, inverted or regular nipples?
Yes.
Good answer. Good answer. Good. No one can see me. We don't do video. I forgot. Yeah, you're right. Like that answer. What do you use for post production? Or is it just straight Maya?
Oh, no. I wish I could pull up some of my raw renders. They look dark and horrendous. About 10% of the beauty that you see in these shots are raw. A lot of it comes from using the software for post-working. So I'll usually run it through a denoiser. There's an Intel NVIDIA denoiser program. It's literally called Intel NVIDIA denoiser. And it'll get rid of a lot of the grain and messiness in the raw render that often comes out. And then I'll run it through a AI program called Luminar AI. It's great for photography, and I found out it's great for renders as well. And it really does a great job of lifting colors. But this workflow is always a work in progress. If I find something better, I'll switch it in for something else. And but yeah, I'll throw it in Luminar, get the colors right. Then I'll throw it in Lightroom, which is an Adobe software. Mm-hmm. And Lightroom, I will tweak the shadows, blacks, whites, and highlights, clarity, texture, the haziness, rim lighting, tinting, color grading, sharpness. I mean, the list goes on. And there's problems that arise with raw renders, like hair that's clipping through the shoulder, or maybe the mesh of the character is looking horrendous and you have to open it up in Photoshop and delete it or add new stuff. Like all the smoke you see in this magical effect for the most recent panel, that's all Photoshop. I got some beautiful smoke brushes, and with an object selection AI, I'm able to cut her out of the background and have the smoke more realistically wrap behind the subject as a result. And that's from many, many years of doing morphs for fun as a hobby. So before I even started 3D, I knew Photoshop because of my morphing passion.
I want to be a dick here for a quick second. Pius, did you follow anything he just said?
I caught like every other word. I'm kind of.
Did you know what any of it meant?
Oh, I thought you meant because of the pictures. I was distracted by the pictures. But yes, maybe
I went too in detail.
Some of the words.
No, you're good.
I'm like, someone who speaks my language because of not film school, but media production. Like, I get all of this. And I'm like, I don't think the audience or Pius are following at all.
I'm sure they're
glad I can be a reference for the audience.
I'm sure there are some people in the audience that are like, shit, this is great information. Like, this is really cool.
Pius is not one of them.
That's what I'm hoping.
I was curious because I'm sure it doesn't take the ultra omega like craziest computer to like make this work.
It does.
What kind
I was gonna say.
Sorry to say it.
I was gonna say. I know that. Would you mind saying what graphics card you have?
I have the best graphics card on the market at the moment, which is an EVGA RTX 3090 FTW Ultra.
Did that cost you like a liver?
I actually lucked out and I signed up for a queue right when the 3000 series came out. And I was reached out and contacted 2 weeks after it came out, and I paid market price. So it was fine.
I'm gonna go in my closet and cry now.
And then it skyrocketed to $5,000 at one point. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get another. And then I looked at that price and I said, nope, I'd rather keep my legs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel
You can
that.
go get one now.
Yeah.
Wait a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, maybe like 3 more weeks before it to like totally crash out.
Yeah. But so to answer that's the subject, it's essentially you need a killer rig to
so you
really
need a
get
good
some
rig.
creative freedom. I know of a few artists that have like, excuse my language, but like diarrhea rigs where it's like they barely have a GPU. It's all like integrated
toasters.
graphics.
Oh my god!
And they make
What?
Blender stuff with their CPU and they make it work, but it's tough. It's tough and it's limiting. When you're making art, you don't want to be limited. I started the hobby with a GTX 980 Ti, and
Ooh, okay.
then the 3000 series came out, and I said, okay, I'm going to make something around this new GPU. And I'll be doing the exact same thing when the 4000 series comes out. I'll probably go with two 4090s.
I love the fact you were like, man, fuck this whole generation of GPU. I'm gonna get the newest, best thing. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how upgrading works.
Well, I mean, the passion was strong, like I saw what
Yeah, I
was
feel
happening
that.
and I was like, I'm going to do this. It's too much fun.
Liquid cooling or fans?
All liquid. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, I'm a computer science major. I'm going to go all out. I know what I'm doing. So, yeah, I've got a 12-core processor running at
Ooh.
4.5 gigahertz. I've got 128 gigabytes of RAM.
Understandable.
I've got over, I think, 48 terabytes of external hard drive storage. I've got a lot of external hard drives. I've got backups for my backups, and I've got cloud automated backups. I had a nightmare happen January 1st of this year. I lost an external hard drive, but because I had stuff backed up, I didn't lose my work. And I've since doubled down on it and gotten even more secure.
Fair.
But yeah, backing up your stuff is super important. Yeah. So I mean, I got a killer rig, and it's important to have a really good rig.
True. Final technical question, because I can hear Puce's gears just grinding to a
I
halt.
like these conversations. I just can't contribute.
What resolution do you render at?
I usually render at 920 by 1080p. So, but I use Gigapixel AI to upscale.
Okay, all right, that was my next question. Okay, because I was going to be like, why aren't you doing 4K? All these things sound great for a 4K render. It's like, it's kind of taxing though, even with super good stuff.
Yeah.
Audience, if you even have $1, please go donate to this man. He does God's work, please.
Yeah, if you just Google my name, Beetlebomb, check out some of my free work. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Can verify. So I saw in some of the earlier pictures. So you do multiple. Like it's not all hetero stuff you do. Like you do lesbian stuff too.
I'm pretty sure I have. Yeah, I definitely have. Yeah.
Because the first set you sent was lesbian.
Oh, it was.
It was the
Oh, yeah, it
girls in
was.
the dressing room.
You're right. So I guess I do both. I don't think about it, but yes, I do both.
And I believe
Okay.
you mentioned earlier you've at least done Fuda commissions.
I actually recently created a Fuda character for the first time ever. She hasn't been used in the story yet. Oh yeah, that this was a featured Christmas render that I did. That was posted on slush.com or slushy.com. That was a lot of fun. That was a Blender render, by the way. You can tell how much better the lighting is. But yeah, on the subject of Fuda, let me see if I can pull it up so you guys can look at it while I talk about it. So yeah, I actually got quite a negative reaction for introducing this character in
Really?
the lineups here. Yeah, and I had a hunch, and my hunch was correct, that you either love Fuda or you don't. There's no in between.
That's true, unfortunately.
And my supporters were like, "Oh, Beetle, breast expansion, mini GTS, yay, 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 giant dick." Just suddenly giant dick. And that threw off a lot of people. I had dozens of direct messages saying like, "Hey, if you proceed with this, I won't be supporting you anymore."
Wow, really?
Yeah, that people were very, very opinionated about it.
That is
and-
very vehement and direct about it. Ooh.
Yeah, so this character, her name is Jasmine. She's of Indian heritage. She's dressed in a completely custom-made kind of harem-esque outfit, fully promoting her sexy bulge right there. And she's in the story Haley's Secret with that witch character. And along with it, there's a lot of really cute fantasy characters. Like I just finished designing this little fairy girl named Lila. She's a cutie
You found
pie.
my weakness.
So I mean, the story is built around fantasy, and there's just every kind of like creature that you can imagine featured in this fantasy setting. We even have like a half demon girl who runs a company, and it's like a mixture of reality and fantasy. So I wanted to get like multi-arm girls and a couple things, but I've had to since tone it down. Jasmine won't be playing as big of a role in the story as initially planned, and that's okay. I think that's totally fine. My passions for Fuda are not super strong, so it's not a bummer for me. I like listening to my audience and getting proper feedback.
Makes sense.
Audience, now you know. He will at least do it. He's not afraid to give the ladies something to between their legs.
I'll definitely do Fuda commissions too.
Sorry, I'm completely distracted by all these pictures now.
I'm extremely impressed by the work you do.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do another podcast later down the line. See what updates I have.
Yeah, for sure. So with you having gone full time with it, like, do you feel yourself ever approaching? Like, I'm sure as your own boss, like, there's probably sometimes, but like, do you still enjoy it, or do you feel like this might be something that maybe one day you'll kind of burn out on?
Burnout has been something that everyone has warned me about because, without talking myself up too much, I do have a very serious work ethic. I'm half Japanese, and my family has always taught me to be a very hard worker.
Okay.
It's in my blood, I feel. And so I've been warned by friends and family, like, don't burn out, don't generate this many panels, and because if you do, you're going to burn out. I've never felt it. I've never personally felt the burnout from creating artwork yet. I've never sat down in front of my computer and thought to myself, man, I wish I could be outside right now, or I wish I could be playing this game right now. It doesn't matter how addicted I am to Lost Ark or whatever other passions I have. This interest of mine truly is something that I love and care about, and I don't see myself burning out on it. As long as piracy doesn't take over and I still have wonderful supporters out there, then this is what I want to do till my last breath.
All right,
That's
and
fantastic.
one quick final question before we wrap up and have you plug all your
2 questions.
socials. Oh,
Sure.
2 questions. You've mentioned your family. You've mentioned your family a couple times. Do they know? Like,
Dirty
sounds
bitch,
like
you
they
took
know
my
you're an
question.
artist. Do they know about this side of the art?
They didn't originally. As of 3 or 4 months ago, they do now, and they could not have been more supportive.
Damn,
I was about to say,
jealous.
do they support you in this?
It was one of the
No.
scariest moments to
Was it a
unveil.
willingly let them know, or
Yeah, it was willing.
somebody
It was willing.
stumbled upon your work?
Like I said, I have a family member who's a professional artist in the entertainment business, and he now gives me pointers and like professional level pointers that I really benefit from. So, and as a result, my relationship has gotten a lot better and closer.
That's really cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Jealous. So fucking jealous.
I think you kind of got cut off, but like you were saying, like you were really scared. Like, was it pretty much an immediate support, or was it like a, hey, I'm going to drop this on you. You guys think about it a little bit, and then like let's talk. If that's
I quit
not
my
too
job.
personal.
No, it's okay. I can answer this.
Okay.
I quit my job in May of 2021. And it wasn't until almost a year where my significant other was asking, hey, where's this money coming from? I don't see you programming anymore. And there was a lot of patience and understanding about the ambiguity and not being too direct. And then one day, on a particularly clear day where the mood was right and we were sitting in the living room, the question came up again, and I just said it. I felt like it was the right moment, because sometimes, if you're in a bad mood or upset, you can sometimes let that affect people around you. You can spit it out, and I could tell that everyone's mood was in the right kind of alignment, and so I just let it all out slowly, but I let it out, and yeah, it worked out.
That's so fantastic. I'm so happy for you, genuinely.
Thank you.
All right,
Happy,
and
but I'm
before we
jealous.
say our goodbyes, Beetle, would you like to plug your socials and all that stuff where people can find you?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Beetlebomb. I go by that alias online. That's BeetleBomb. My most popular platform is my DeviantArt. So deviantart.com/Beetlebomb. But I also have a Twitter, which is twitter.com/RealBeetlebomb. And you'll find all my associated links from either of those platforms.
And even if you're not into breast expansion or giantess or anything, go check it out, because this work is phenomenal.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Lusty Lounge. I have been your main host tonight, Puce, with my co-host, Minka.
Me.
And Alt.
Bye.
And thank you for coming to the lounge tonight, Beetle. You've been a fantastic guest.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I had a lot of fun.